In September of 2022, my dad and I took on the challenge of tackling Mount Everest Base Camp. The trek is a rugged 130-kilometre round trip. If you're an Aussie, that's the same distance as walking from Sydney to Newcastle. It took our breath away in more ways than one. It was full of physical challenges, unparalleled beauty, and life-altering lessons. It had many ups and downs, literally, not to mention highs and lows, but all in all was worth every bit of dark for the moments of spectacular light. This is where our story begins, at Sydney Airport on August 27th, 2022. We flew from Sydney to Singapore and then onward to Kathmandu. Upon arrival, we were met by our tour guide and driven to our hotel. We arranged our whole tour through a company called Nepal Tibet Treks, which I couldn't recommend highly enough. Krishna made everything so easy for us, arranging every detail of the trek. Although it is certainly possible to do the experience without booking it through a company, if you're looking for less stress, I would say it's definitely worth it. After one day of sightseeing in Kathmandu, it was time to fly to Lukla and start the ascent. We were supposed to fly out on the Tuesday, however, Mother Nature had other plans. This was the first big lesson we learnt: allow extra time for delays. Mountain weather is completely unpredictable, and especially if you're planning to fly in the off-peak when the weather is worse, be ready to wait up to a week for flights. Yes, really, a week. We spent 4 days on the airport floor, which was mentally incredibly challenging. Every day showing up at 5:30 a.m. in hopes that we might fly, only to sit until 4 p.m. and be told that we would not. We stayed on that roller coaster for 4 days until we finally flew late in the afternoon of that Thursday. Because of the weather, we flew to Surkhay Airport instead of Lukla, meaning an extra hour or so of climbing would have to be done. But hey, we were just glad to get there. They had a row of cabins which we slept in overnight and then started our climb to base camp in the early morning.
It's day one of the hike. We flew in on a heli yesterday and we're feeling very excited to be here.
The next 6 days of trekking were unlike anything we had experienced. Because of the time lost at the airport, we were on a very tight schedule to make it back for our flight home. As a result, we had to skip all acclimation time and reach a new town each day. This took our challenge to a whole new level. We went from Lukla to Pak Ding, then Pak Ding to Namche, which took around 4 hours of walking uphill. Namche Bazaar is one of the biggest villages on the mountain, with lots of shops and bars. It's the last place you'll find a hot shower, and it's the best town to stock up on gear and other essentials.
So it's day 3. Definitely starting to feel pretty tired and can feel my body getting pretty sore. Yeah, we did a lot of walking yesterday and my legs definitely feel it. Feeling pretty tired. I didn't have very good sleep last night. I think the altitude is starting to affect that.
From there, we went to Dingboche and then on to Petache. We were blown away by how much the surroundings changed as we climbed higher, going from lush green forests in lower areas to arid sand and rocks higher up.
Today's a good day. We're walking on flat. It's feeling really nice. Day 4.
From Petache, we trekked to Lobuche. It was about at this point we started feeling the effects of our swift ascent. The altitude sickness hit hard. I experienced severe dizziness, headaches, and nausea, which for a moment made us think we may have to quit. Fortunately, with the help of intentional breathing and halving the pace, we managed to stay just ahead of the symptoms. The Wim Hof breathing method was another tool that saved us. We truly would not have made it to base camp without it.
And my 3 words for yesterday would be beautiful, breathtaking. Let's go with that. Breathtaking, enjoyable, a bit scary because of the sickness. I think that's about it. We might even go to base camp today. So yeah, very exciting.
Slowly and steadily, we made our way from Lobuche to Gorakshep, and then finally onward to base camp on the morning of the 6th day. We left Gorakshep at around 7 a.m. and reached base camp 2 hours later. It was beyond spectacular. Up until this point, the weather hadn't allowed us much visibility, but on the morning of this day, the clouds cleared up and we had every mountain on full display. I don't think anything will ever top the euphoria we experienced that day.
Hey! Congratulations you guys for being appearing there. Sorry.
We had an unforgettable few hours at base camp, and then it was time to start the journey back to Lukla. The next 3 days were the hardest yet. 11 hours of walking back to back pushed us to our mental and physical limits. We reached Lukla on September 10th, and just like that, our adventure was over. It was so surreal to try and comprehend what we had just achieved. Luckily, the weather had improved by this time and we took off from the famous Lukla airport on our first attempt. The takeoff definitely lived up to the hype of being a once-in-a-lifetime experience. If only we knew the way the world held us, even in moments of hot-headed panic. The stillness with which it awaits our return when we cast ourselves adrift. The sureness it keeps in our absence. Everything will and always does come to an end. And when it does, you'll find yourself waiting in the sea, in the sky, in the silence. Nature is where we go to get lost and also to be found. There is a certain magic in the way it provides an escape, but always a road back home.